wonder when the bed's active.
Dials, they roughly tell me where the cage is at in the shaft, right? So the west is, I just parked on 27, and they're gonna load up there. I also have chalk marks inside the drums that tell me where the top and bottom section is. Other than that, we talk using buzzers. They signal to me how they want me to move it, up or down, or everything's got different code to it. next move I'm gonna assume I'm gonna hear is 3, and that's the code for surface.
And then you echo every single one.
Yep, and then they give it to me, I give back to them, so we're on the same page. It's the same code system they use when they're mining.
Wow.
You'll see shaft numbers, like you'll see 7, there'll be a gate there, and that's where they cut in on a drift and start mining.
Gotcha.
The tour goes to the bottom.
The tour goes to the bottom.
Now the sun, now you got the sun beating on them.
My dad telling me about the line somebody got mowed and everything down there, and then wasn't those mine up?
It's like you look at that, okay, that looks like a minecart, but this is like, whose engineering was that? Western, that's like,
The front, remember?
All the way in, guys. Go to the back of the cage.
Window on the
All right, take the left. Stay right there.
So I want to test the helmet cam for
All the way to the back.
how it works, and then
Very nice.
Everybody got to turn around and face me, guys. Turn around and face me. Back on in. Back into the people behind you.
cozy.
Yeah, it is.
How many people can fit in here?
18.
It says 18.
I think I see 12.
All right. Very good. And what part of Texas?
Well, I actually live in Minnesota now, but I've moved up here from the Panhandle area.
Oh, okay.
Amarillo, Lubbock. I do not like that.
They're putting everybody else in upstairs now.
You guys want to be up front?
So they put 18 in this part.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
It's real simple.
They were a lot smaller than me.
Not the pictures I've seen. They come in all shapes and sizes, but you're going to find the two people that fit in a row with you, and you will always ride with them. But it's a real simple way to get 18 guys in here. Pay them by the ton. Which they did.
Somehow my heart rate's still
Yep. While you're standing up there, you're not going to make any money. So you're going to get in here. Yeah. Top 1,000 feet of our shaft, gang, is concrete, like we're seeing right out here.
Really?
Below that, we go through a rock formation called banded jasper. Very solid, very hard. Didn't have to do anything to it, so the wall will turn to rock. And at level 19, everything will transition into corrugated steel. There we go, gang. It's gonna get noisy. Might want to plug your ears. We'll talk more at the bottom.
I expected it to be noisy. I didn't expect to feel like moving that fast. really gentle coming to a stop here.
Yeah, I expected a really jerky stop.
All right. If you would, just remain here till I get the gate open.
I'm ready to get out. No.
All right.
But watch this, that was only 9 flights of
Sir, if
stairs.
you would,
Just
carry
stay
down to that
far
farther
south.
brown
Okay,
train car. Take yourself one of the plush seats down there. Watch your step here, please. Careful stepping out this. Well done. Careful right here, please. Watch your step. Careful right here. Thank you.
It was awesome.
Then zoom up with that upper section. Up there.
I don't think I'm there. Watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What direction is it going?
I was gonna say.
Who I am? Single. Right up to that. Oh, wait, hang on.
What, from the inside?
I don't know what direction they're going, so.
Single here.
They might give you a break. I mean, you're gonna have from my helmet cam at least in theory. Yeah, I know. I just.
Oh, yeah. I can scoot over. I can scoot over here. I don't mind.
I figure that maybe try to squeeze more people in.
Well, take a ride. See your point.
I'm gonna remove this because I think my diction is better without it. Welcome to Shaft Station, level 27. The first thing I always like to point out here is the chicken wire in the ceiling, because it is one of the very few examples of shoring that we're going to come across. Through most of this line, it's just not required at all. This was put in place here to protect these trains while they were blasting out two physics labs that used to be right behind me. About 80 feet through this wall, there are two rooms, each of which is about the size of a football field. And back there, they studied subatomic particles. That kind of research, gang, really is frequently done in the bottom of underground mines, because this is one of the very few places where you can have a half a mile of insulation to block out cosmic interference. The other reason stuff like this happens down here is because we already had the road to get you here. And whether it's research or mining, shaft sinking is going to be the most expensive and time-consuming part of the whole gig. So they came down here, they carved out their spaces, installed their equipment, and from 2003 until 2017, they studied neutrinos and dark matter, and then they took the ball and went home. And the DNR is still a little peeved about this whole thing, because they spent a lot of coin getting that ready for these experiments. So now they decided we'll just find somebody else, which leads to this conversation, gang. If you or anyone you know is looking for a really unique place to set up a business, that might be it. When you get back to the surface, just talk to Joyce, and she'll point you in the right direction, have you talking to the right people so you're not wasting your valuable time. It's a very unique place. Think about the security, gang, for those of you interested in that kind of stuff. Nobody gets here unless there's somebody sitting on that stand. And you're not going to walk in and figure out that equipment overnight. So you've really got a lot of control over who your visitors are going to be. The film you watched kept on referring to this place as the Cadillac. Well, nobody called it a Cadillac when they worked here. It was just a job. But once this place closed and they had to go someplace else, that's when they realized just how great they'd had it all these years. Good solid rock and ore formation. We don't have cave-ins.
We're getting great fresh air coming in through those 7 open pits, taking advantage of 15 other shafts that existed over the life of the mine. The coldest part of the mine is the top 600 feet. So as soon as the air enters there, the air cools, and cold air, for those of you who aren't from Texas, is heavy air. It finds its way to the bottom, but here now, things are warming up. And that warm air will go right back up that number 8 shaft like a half-mile long chimney, and we're getting fresh air every 20 minutes. Very unique, this mine. This is one of over 200 underground iron mines that we had in the state of Minnesota, stretching from north of Grand Marais down to Brainerd, for those of you who are familiar with the territory. Good solid rock, great fresh air, and very little water is what really makes a Cadillac a Cadillac. Gang, we will, in a year's time, an average here, this is far from average, everybody's aware of that, pump about 33 million gallons of water out of this place. Mines half the size or less up in Ely, we're pumping that much out every 2 weeks. And down on the Mesabi Range, where I live, where my father and grandfather started their mining careers underground, the mines were even worse than that. So we were fortunate. Somebody realized, you know, when this place stops being a functioning iron mine, maybe it'll make a good tour. So far, I think it has. Any questions yet? Sir?
I don't remember how many shafts he said he had here.
Okay.
But how far does it travel? I mean, how many miles, how far apart are the shafts?
You're talking actually levels.
Oh, level.
Not shafts.
Okay.
Shafts run up and down, levels run east and west.
So is there one shaft?
There were 15. We're only using one since 1924 when electricity arrived.
Okay.
What you're asking is how much distance between levels, I think.
No, how many distance between the shafts?
Oh, the shafts were just set up
So they're right in this area?
to reflect where the different columns of ore lie. And it's 1.5 miles from end to end.
Okay, that's a good question.
Is that, okay, yeah. When electricity got here and they realized we can focus everything underground and only have to sink one shaft, operate one crusher location, one loading pocket, our expenses went way down. It wasn't enough to keep us in business with competition becoming what it was, but it still made a lot of sense if you were one of the stockholders. You're going to get a lot more profit per share.
Now, between the time it closed and the time it reopened or something else, did they keep the pumps going so it never flooded?
He asked now if we kept pumps going. Absolutely. Once a mine floods, you don't pump it out and trust it with any modicum of safety. So fortunately they did, and the pumps have never shut off. Not that they work that hard. In fact, if all of the pumps were to close right now, gang, we would have to be out of here in about 6 weeks before our feet got wet. So it really is a very comfortable place to be. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Oliver Iron Mining?
Oliver is the iron mining wing of U.S. Steel. Yep. It became a U.S. Steel operation in 1905. Before that, it was owned initially by a man, surprisingly enough, who shared the name with the city located right next by, Charlemagne Tower. I don't know why they didn't call it Charlemagne. That would have been a much more exciting name for a mine, but that's what we had. Then he sold out, was forced out actually, by a contingent headed up by John D. Rockefeller. And then in 2005, it was under the purview of U.S. Steel. Good. Okay, we're going to take off now. We have about 2/3 of a mile to ride. While these cars are moving, got some regulations for you, not suggestions, rules. 1, do not stand. There are going to be some things coming in over your heads that'll punch a very nice hole in you if you do. And lighting conditions in the drift are not spectacular. You won't see most of this stuff coming. Do not lift anything above your hard hats. Not hands, or cameras, or small children, nothing. Likewise, you see the fences on the sides of the cars. Nothing goes through those fences, gang. Not a finger, not the brim of a hat, nothing. Then you're going to come back with everything you left with. And that would be swell. Questions? Okay, here we go. stop I should have made 2 days ago. On a tour at that point, I had a young woman whose uncle was one of the 33 Chilean miners trapped underground about 15 years ago for 2 months. Directly in front of us, there's a door. Behind that door is what we very affectionately refer to as the refuge chamber. A space that we would occupy if we were not able to get back to the surface. If there was something wrong with the shaft, it's got heat, it's got accommodations, food and water, toilet facilities, fresh air supply from the surface, and communications there too as well. As far as I know, well, those Chilean miners all made it to their refuge chamber and were found and rescued. As far as I know, this facility, with which we train extensively every spring, trying out scenarios, hoping for the best but training for the worst, has only been used one time since 4 July 1965. I'm very happy to tell you that. I'm very sad to tell you that the one time it was used was because I derailed a train on this corner. I now really make sure I slow down at this point so I don't replicate that opportunity because it wasn't all that much fun. All right, we're going to go around the corner and you'll see a red light, which is indicating that we have finally gotten out to the iron ore formations, and the scenery is going to change dramatically as you start seeing evidence of extraction going on. We'll go a little bit further and get out of the train and see what was happening up in one of those spaces. You're doing a good job of keeping yourself safe, and we really appreciate that. Keep it up. Here we go. Things change. People change. Concepts change. Miners did not ride up here in trains. They walked. You walk that path at least 4 times every shift. Twice up, twice back. Ideas of what constitutes work change. And what constitutes acceptable working conditions definitely change. Gang, your walk in that drift is done in complete darkness because any light that you're going to use down here, you had to provide. And nobody is making that much money in this job that they can afford to do both light the place up and feed their families. And I think I know why these workers were here. And it wasn't to show off how many candles they could burn. So you're going to have to learn how to do a lot of things in total darkness. Most of us would never even understand that, let alone believe it. We're going to show you how you get that accomplished. Gang, we're going to go up about 28 feet into the last portion of the mine to be developed. You can go one of two ways. You can either follow me up the staircase, or if that's not your bent, we also have a real stainless steel, state-of-the-art elevator, a real elevator that will lift you up that same 28 feet. What I want you to start thinking about is this. You work here as a part of a crew. And without that crew membership, you aren't going to survive. And you certainly are not going to succeed. Start thinking about your position in that crew, gang, and how you contribute to it, and, of course, how it's contributing to your reason for being here. Our goal at this point would be to get all of us into that stope and to work as fast as we can. Today, the easiest way to do that is to have some of us go up a staircase and some of us take the elevator. That will put us all up there together a lot faster. Figure out your position. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you what that is. Those of you who are taking the stairs will follow me. If you're taking the elevator, just remain on the car for a minute. And Carl, my partner here, will collect you right from where you're sitting and bring you up on the elevator. If you are ready for stairs, gang, I'll ask you to step up the north side and follow me this way.
No, stairs. We're going to the stairs.
You want to be on the
Anybody taking the elevator?
Yes, we are.
What's that?
We don't have to, do we?
We don't have to. No, I'll follow you guys up if that's what you want to do.
I'm just following you.
What is the man wing?
That is just a series of ladders that goes up into the same area where we're
going right now?
That's how men got to work. That's how miners went to work. And guys, this ladder only goes up about 25 feet and you're there. But if you guys were working a mature stope, this would have been a series of ladders that could have gone up as high as 180 feet. Wow.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
300 yards north of the front gate. Where we go along the front. Yeah, that's where we're at. So our process gang will have us coming up 25 feet in the mining gate, and then with drills and explosives slicing out in all directions until we run into something that is not iron ore. We are paid to move specular hematite, and if it's not that, it's still here. We are not going to invest our time or our energy or our money in something that does not have a return on the investment. So, this is the size of the column, and this depth. You remember I told you it's a column that comes down at a 78-degree angle. They figure things out pretty precisely, gang. Down to where the train is, there is no iron ore. It's coming down to the north of that train. Coming up 25 feet puts us into the picture. Now with a good drill operator, we can pick out just what we're here for, which is actually this stuff right here. Sparkly gunmetal blue, and helmets that fall like leaves. Now, 70% iron, and nearly 30% oxygen, and very little else. That's what made this such a remarkable ore formation. And when it hit the market in 1884, it was amongst the best ores on the planet if your intent was to take iron ore and convert it to iron and then refine it further into steel, adding in the other minerals and things that make the variety of products that the end user is after. Gang, they're problem for us up here. We can deal with 350, 400-pound pieces because we're not picking them up. But those poor schmucks down there have to pick it up and load it into a train car. And some of you are saying, well, why don't you just put the train car right underneath the hole? It won't survive. The other reason for not doing that, gang, for our own safety, we want to keep this hole in the tank. We're not going to be a drag on the family. It's a strange community. They have different ideas. Maybe not so different, but they were not. My grandfather came to this country in 1907 in Finland. In Finland, the oldest son
Actually glaze over.
The roof was dull, mostly the largest portion of rock here.
It is, yeah. There's more greenstone here. The iron ore was at one time actually sedimentary magnetite. It laid in beds, basically horizontally.
ship 15.5 million long tons of comparable product these days in the form of the best slingshot ammunition you can get by the carload. And they'll do that in just over 14 months, not 8 years. So they won't be back for this stuff, which is fine with me. I don't want to be a miner again. I like this game. We're going to be shipping up to the surface here very shortly. Thank you all for coming. It was a real pleasure. I would suggest that you not feel that since you've been here, you don't have to come back. Every time you go up that drip with other guys like Carl or some other good ones that we have, you study different facets. Do you have a question? Oh, well, you're okay. Okay. So, the only thing I would suggest is that when you come back, pick a really yucky, windy, rainy, good for nothing else day. Because it never changes down here. Pick the good ones and stay up there and do something fun. Not that you're not doing something fun.
Everyone get cozy. I think I'm most curious to see like the footage going up and back down, or down and back up.
Already plans for a level 29, 200 feet below where we are.
Lean against you.
And the geologists say there was no reason to stop there. There's probably 4 miles of ore below that.
You know, Randall, it took like 10 years in my career to learn what MSA actually stood for, because we have MSA packs.
It's just as noisy going up
My
as it was
safety
coming
administration.
down.
It's like, but I never knew that until I'm like, what does MSA even stand for? They make good packs. I prefer one with Scott.
Thank you.
How many active levels were there?
Yeah. And then the bottom 3 levels, we skipped the even numbers and chose to instead mine up 200 feet instead of the 100.
Free at last, free at last.
That's right.
Oh, the dark jam.
Great. Careful stepping out, King. Oh, thanks, Carl.
That's nuts. That is just insane. Thanks, folks. Nobody crapped their pants. Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys.
Wow. These trees weren't here before.
Mm-hmm.
Mother Nature took it back over.
That's pretty incredible.
almost dizzying just staring down at that. Yeah, you can see like the landfall.